Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. On this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast, we're going back, way back. And I mean, so far back that you have to kind of think about, what you remember from those times. We're taking it back to high school. You see the link. And on this one, I found it fitting to go back with somebody that I've gone way back with. To be honest, I can't even remember. I'm trying to remember like when we started following each other on social media. But it had to be like in the, I don't know, 2018, maybe, I don't know, man. No, it's way before that. Probably, I don't know. Anyway, it was a long time ago. So nonetheless, I have with me today on this episode, my man, Immanuel, aka Jay Mayo, the host of the Right to Real Love podcast. Jay, what up, man?
What is up, man? Yo, my man, 12 Kyle. It is such an honor, bro. As you mentioned, we go way back in this thing. Like, I tell people, like, we was in this podcasting thing long before it was as popular and all your favorite celebrities had a podcast.
Right.
Like, when we said we had a podcast, people be like, oh, what? That's how long we've been in the game.
Right. Long time, man. And we, like I said, you've been doing your thing on your podcast, man. And I'll give you a chance to, tell people where they can find you. But I decided we were going to talk about high school, back in high school. So let's start right there, man. Now, full disclosure, I'm a little bit older than Jay. I'm
Right.
not sure how old Jay is, but I know that I'm a little bit older than Jay. Nonetheless, um, where did you go to high school and what made your high school unique?
Bet. So even though I was born and raised in Detroit, we actually moved outside of Detroit as soon as I started high school. So high school was a very interesting period in time for me because it was a shift from all of the friends and kids that I grew up knowing, and now I'm getting like put into this, new school. Like we out in the suburbs now. Like it was a totally different vibe. So I went to Southfield Lathrop High School. It actually isn't around now, but yeah, we moved out to Southfield. It was two high schools in Southfield, either Southfield High or Southfield Lathrop. And based on where we were living in that city, I ended up going to what's Lathrop. So yeah, man, that's where I went to high school.
Okay. What made the high school unique, or was it unique at all?
Um, I mean, well, for me, it was unique just based on the sense that it was a new place, new people, and I had never really like it had been years since I had gone to like a new school. So
Okay.
for me, it was very transformational in the sense of I had to learn how to adapt to a new environment. Like all of the people that I went to high school, well, middle school with, elementary school with, I would have been going to high school with them if I stayed in Detroit, but my mom and we moved out to the suburbs, and now I'm at Lathrop, and I'm like, man, this is totally foreign, totally new. So for me, everything was unique because I didn't know nobody there, and I
Mm.
pretty much just had to kind of get my groundings and figure out, okay, how am I going to navigate this new environment?
Was that a hard adjustment? I mean, I can imagine, going from someplace where you know everybody and you've gone to
Mhm.
school up until that point. For some kids,
Yeah.
probably 9 years, and then
Mhm.
now you're starting over new and fresh someplace else. Was that hard?
Yeah, man, it was. I'll be honest. Like, I think that when I look back, I had I can't tell you when it happened, but at some point, like my personality kind of shifted, if I'm being completely honest,
Hmm.
because when I was in elementary and middle school, I was like that outgoing, extroverted kid. But I really believe I became more introverted and more shy when I came to this new high school and I didn't really know people there. When I tried to make friends, like people weren't necessarily the most friendly because similar to like what my situation would have been like if I stayed in Detroit, is all of these kids they went to middle school together. So they all
Hmm.
knew each other, they all had history. And like here comes this new kid in here, and like I'm trying to integrate myself. The girls that I'm going after, like they not feeling me like that, or they already taken for by some other dude. So just navigating that whole situation. You always deal with in high school people that just don't like you for no reason. So,
Right.
dealing with the haters and having it clear when I came out here to this suburb school was if you fight, you get suspended, you get expelled. And my mom made that clear. So like in the back of my head, I'm like, I can't respond the way that I would before, because like if you try me, I'm gonna just stall on you, and then
Right.
we just gonna have to handle it like that. But now I'm like, okay, so I can't fight people as my first response. It was just new, like just
Hmm.
having to navigate becoming honestly a new person to a certain
Mm.
extent, man. And that's when I look back, like high school is really where things shifted for me a lot, man. And yeah, it was definitely an interesting period in time. I don't think I know I didn't recognize it at the time, but like looking back, I can see that a lot of shifts happened in my life during that period of time.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. It's funny to hear you say fight. Like I'm trying to picture you in high school.
Right.
Just what I know of you.
Right.
Real laid back, cool cat. Not really. I can't picture you throwing
Right.
blows, but anybody can throw blows if they got to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And here,
Um,
and
Go
being
ahead. No,
real
go
with
ahead.
you, the reason why I always had to fight is because, like, I'm not ashamed of saying that. I let people know, like, I'm a short dude. So, like, I'm not tall, like, like I'm 5'6", and when I was younger, I
Same.
was probably even shorter. So I always got tried. And that was just something that I always had to deal with. Like whether it was in the, when I went to over my cousin's house in the hood, they would try me because I was the smallest kid on the block. And, always had to stand up and fight just be off of the strength of that. Then at my
Hmm.
school, the bigger kids, they would always try to try me. And I had to stand up for myself. Like it, and to me, what really happened, I was taking it for a while because I wasn't sure how my mom would respond. Like when like these kids would be like picking on me and I didn't want to like get into no trouble. And when my mom gave me the green light, she was like, yo, somebody picking on you. Like she was like, yo, when these bigger kids would pick on me, I would go get a stick. And
Hmm.
so like the next time this dude tried me at school, I went and got the biggest stick I could find on the playground. And I was like, yo, let's get it in, man. And
Right.
like he couldn't believe it. Like, cause I always just kind of just fell back and took it. But once my mom gave me the green light, I was ready. So in that regard, like he gave me his respect. Like he didn't want to go because I was ready to go with him. But that's not to like pump myself up and try to act like some
No, no,
tough
I
guy.
know exactly where you're coming
That's
from.
really not who I am. It's just I always was put in a corner, just being short, just being that kid that kind of people kind of looked over, and I always had to fight to for my position and let people know like I'm not gonna be like trampled with or taken advantage of. And when I went to this new school, it was different because I couldn't respond that way. So like when people put me in a corner, I had to think a different way. And my mom did give me one rule, which is if they put their hands on you, then then you could do what you got to do. So like there was somebody that did that, and like that was the one time it happened. I went to the principal's office in the freshman year, and they reiterated the whole situation about me being suspended. And then after that, I just was like, all right, man, I'm gonna just fall back and just find my lane, and that's really what I had to do.
Man, I ain't mad at that. Like, as somebody that's 5'7 3/4", I totally understand.
Yo, man, they be
I
trying us
totally
out
get it.
here,
Yeah,
man.
man. The 5 footers, man, they sleep on us.
Right.
My experience is a little bit different as far as high school because I was kind of like what you mentioned as far as like the kids that you grew up with in Detroit.
Hmm.
I was at the same when I got by the time I got to high school, I had at the very least I had gone to middle school with most of the kids that I went to school with.
Hmm.
Well, where I went to elementary school at, and then my parents got divorced as soon as I started middle school. So I went to
Hmm.
a different school, but going to Williams Middle School and then going to Wilson High School in Florence, South Carolina, it was just
Hmm.
cool. It was a cool high school. It was actually the high school that my mom graduated from and my
Oh
aunts.
wow.
Yeah, so it was, growing up in a small town. Everybody pretty much knew each other. If you didn't know people, like you knew
Mhm.
of their families or knew of
That makes
people
sense.
in their families. So,
Mhm.
you kind of knew who to mess with and who not to mess with. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But it was a cool time. I really enjoyed, my 4 years in high school. It was a place where I think for me, I discovered me,
Ah, that's
or
good,
at least
man.
began, the self discovery. And playing sports and being involved in activities, that stuff definitely helped.
Mhm.
What years were you in high school? Now, this will help me find out how old Jay is because I don't know how old Jay is, but I got an idea. But what years were
Okay,
you in high
yeah,
school?
no problem. So I started high school in technically like 99, but it's like 2000 to '03. So
Okay,
that I graduated high school in '03. I was class
okay,
'03. Yep.
young buck.
Yes, man. Yes, young buck for sure. Not so much now, but yeah.
Right, right.
Yo, it's crazy when I look back and be like, yo, man, I'm almost on the doorstep of 40. It don't
Man,
even feel like that.
enjoy it, man, because it the time just flies. It's like I
It
tell people,
does,
like
man.
you hit 25 and then everything kind of speeds up after that.
Right. Right. I
Um,
remember my cousin, man, when he turned 18, like or was it 18 or 21? I can't remember. I think it might have been 21. And no, I think it was 18. Like he was just like sad. And I'm like, yo, why you so sad? And he was just like, bro, like it was kind of like, yo, I just want to still be a kid. And I promise you, for me, life really just started fast forwarding where like the years became a blur right after
mhm.
college and everything, and I started working in corporate America. It just went by like a blur, man. Like
Yeah.
from what was that? From 2012 and on, and that was like around the time when you and I had kind of met, and we were doing like the
Mhm.
podcast thing around that time. And man, these last all what 10 years now,
10
like have
years,
been a
yeah.
blur.
It
Crazy,
is. It is, and I mean, even being in the pandemic now the time seems even further because it's like,
right?
yeah, okay, yeah, I did that in 2020. Like, man, the only thing I remember from 2020 was the pandemic. Like,
Facts, man. Facts.
so
Yeah.
yeah, man. So as I mentioned earlier to those of you listening, I'm a little bit older than Jay. So I started high school. My freshman year was 88, and I graduated
Okay.
in 91. And you know what's weird, Jay, is like
Okay.
even because last year we celebrated we didn't get a chance to celebrate because of the
Mhm.
pandemic, but we celebrated being out of high school for 30 years. And
Wow.
like I can remember almost everything from high school. And the crazy part about it, it does not feel like it's been 30 years, but it's
Mhm.
really been 30 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, dang, it's been 30 years. And sometimes like, dang, it's been 30 years.
Right. Right. It's all about how you feeling in that moment.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, 1991 was the year that we crossed the stage.
Nice.
What was some of your favorite subjects in high school?
Oh man, so for me, this is gonna probably shock like probably about 95% of the viewers, but for me it was math. Like
Really?
I
Okay.
definitely like math, and my other favorite class was computers. So those are like my two favorite subjects.
For me, it was I was a big social studies kid.
Okay.
So your geographies,
Hmm.
social studies. Um, I didn't particularly care for like world geography or whatever, but like
Hmm.
geography and social studies, I always loved social studies because I'm a
Nice.
big history kind of cat.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I enjoyed English / language arts.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, those are probably my favorites. Math, science,
Yo, I feel you, bro. I feel you, man.
So, wait, what subjects did you absolutely hate?
I'll be honest, man, like, I never really hated subjects as much
Okay.
as I didn't really like school that much. But I think that's just being a kid. Like, I mean,
Right.
I definitely I was kinda over the whole school thing. But to be honest with you though, Kyle, I was that person that I definitely wasn't like no genius or nothing, right? But
Mhm.
school and like the whole process and the system behind school was easy for me. Like, it was
Okay.
just like, okay, you study this, you cram these facts into your head and then you answer these questions. So I was like, when I went to that high school, it was interesting because not I told you, and this I don't mean to go all the way around the world, but I want to kind of
No, go
paint a
ahead,
picture.
bro. You know how we do.
So the high school that I went into, it was pretty much it was broken up into like four different wings. They was A, B, C, and D, right?
Mhm.
So the majority of kids was A, B, and C. And then D wing was like the kids that are in like the accelerated classes. It
Okay.
just so happened that, based on, where I tested out when I, tested for the school, that I was a part of that more gifted class. So that
Gotcha.
was another portion of like isolation too, because the majority of the school kids at the school, I wasn't really like introduced or, have much exposure to them. So for me, I was in these higher accelerated classes, with the small portion of students at the school. And I say all that to say that it just came easier for me to like get through classes. So I wasn't like a history buff like you. Like I probably it wasn't a I passed the classes. I was
Mhm.
even in what was it? AP history or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
had
AP
AP.
history.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
man. I was in that.
no, I couldn't even look. I don't like science. I like that really wasn't my subject, but I had AP biology. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like I was able to get the grade, but I really didn't connect with the material. And like looking back as an adult, that's one of the things that I regret most. Maybe not so much about high school, but my college experiences. I was still even coasting through college. And I look back and be like, dang, if I would have actually been applying myself, like, dang, like I could have been something. Like, yo, I could have been a problem out here if I was really like actually trying to absorb all of the information that I
Right.
was putting in my brain. I was like, dang, I totally missed out on the opportunity. But you know how they say hindsight is 2020
Yeah,
for sure.
man. We get a lot smarter when we get older.
Yeah.
So
But I'll say
yeah.
that to say that the classes that I had AP in,
Mhm.
ironically, were the ones that I ain't really like that much. Like, I ain't really like history. I ain't really like biology. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't even take the AP exams because I was like, I don't
Mm.
even like these classes. Like, it is what it is. I did what was necessary to, I didn't really avoid them in college, but it was just like in high school, all right, like I'm in that class, I'm still getting the grades. So they keep putting me to the next level. So,
Right.
I ain't mad at it.
And that's what it's about, man. I mean, like, there's a lot of kids like that.
Mhm,
And, you were on the positive side as far as, being able to excel as
mhm,
opposed to the other kids that were in the class. Here's a kid in you that's in the AP class
mhm,
that's getting the grades, but, like you said, not really connected to the material. And then
yeah,
you have kids in, regular classes that,
mhm,
are doing the same thing, but they're not getting the grades. And then
yeah,
they're looked down upon or
mhm.
or held back for some reason or whatever the case may be. Um, the class that I hated, hands down, was geometry. And
Oh, yo, that was my least favorite math. Like, so I get
oh
let's keep it
god.
100. That was definitely my least. Hey, and yo, check this out. That was actually the first math that I remember having to take. Like when I was no, I take that
Hmm.
back. No, it was algebra. I think.
Algebra
Hold
in,
on,
in freshman year,
which one came
geometry
first?
second year, and I think
Yeah,
algebra
yeah, that's what it
two.
must have been. Yeah,
Yeah.
I rock with algebra. I rock with trigonometry, but that doggone geometry and the teacher that I had, man, like I ain't gonna say his name, but like it was like it was like the laziest white dude. Like he just
What?
came there, and I felt like I think everybody knew he was just there to get a check. He was looking at the little beautiful black student girls, like
Oh shit.
it was just like, yeah, he was one of them, boy. He was one of them. Like he was just whatever, like do your work, turn it in. He don't really care. And I was just like, yo, this guy right here, man, he's something
Wow.
else.
Wow.
Something
Yeah,
else.
man. And what's ironic about your story? I can honestly say that my geometry teacher, and I'll say his name, Mr. Green. Mr. Green was probably one of the best teachers in the school at Wilson.
Wow.
Uh,
Nice.
I couldn't connect with it, man. I couldn't connect
Mhm.
with it. I I don't know what X plus Y equals Z. That means absolutely nothing to me right now. I, it- you know, I don't want to, I don't want to talk down to the kids, but any kids listening and watching, you'll never see this again in your life.
Yeah.
Unless you become an engineer or something, you'll
Right.
never see this again in your life. The Pythagorean theorem makes
Mm.
no sense to me, even to this day. I don't know what pi is. I know pi is 3.1 point blah, 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 whatever. Um, Kids, you'll never see this again in your life.
Yeah.
But,
Hey, uh-huh.
go ahead.
No, no, go ahead, please,
I was just
Kyle.
gonna say, like, I mean, like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And I think there's something to be said about, particularly in the educational system. And it's something that I think we get as we get older, is that
Mhm.
we tend to do well in the classes that we like. We don't
Right.
do as well in the classes that we don't like. And I'm sure you probably went through that in college. I know I did.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and it was something that kind of skipped it because your mom and dad or grandma, whoever's raising you, not trying to hear that when you're in the 10th grade. Like, I don't really like this
Uh,
class. Boy, you better get an A.
right. Right.
So what were you gonna
Yeah.
say?
Now I was gonna say, you was giving a message to the kids, and the one thing that I would say to any kid out there that's willing to listen is don't chase the grade, right? Life isn't about the grade. And that's where I look back and that was the mistake that I made is I thought the most important thing was the grade. But the
Mm,
most important thing really is connecting with a subject that you are interested in. And when you do that, that's what opens up the doors once you long past your schooling
mm,
years is because that information that you acquire, that knowledge that you really connect with, it's going to lead you places. It's going to open up the doors. But when I look back, I got all of these grades, I got these degrees, but they don't really mean much to me because of the fact that I really wasn't connected with the stuff at all. like I really looking like I wanted to be a computer engineer, but this is where fear derailed my journey in life, man, because I was afraid once I went to Clark, Atlanta. That's how I made my way down to the ATL. Like that's where
Okay.
I went after graduating.
Yes, sir.
And I was an engineering major, even though that school wasn't even, that much prime for that. In my engineering class, when I found out that I was gonna have to take a bunch of science classes, that's what derailed me. And to me, I had a limited mindset. I know it now. I had a static mindset where I'm not good in science. So I felt, oh man, well, I got to be good in science in order to be an engineer.
Mhm.
So it's going to be quote unquote impossible for me to become an engineer because I'm not good at science. And looking back, that is one of those decisions that I look back and be like, dang, I wish I would have stuck with it. Like I didn't even give myself the opportunity to like go through it. But that was a whole nother aspect of my personality that I've had to kind of work through. But I would just tell the kids, if you are only focused on the grade, life is about way more than that. I promise you that.
Facts.
Don't focus on the grade. Like getting the grade is important when you there, but know that that's secondary to first and foremost figuring out what information, what subject, what interest do you truly connect with. And whether it's in school, whether that's something that is, a class related or something outside of school, put your time and your investment into that, because that's what's going to lead you to where you need to go and open up so many doors in life.
1000%, man. I couldn't have said it better. Is not chasing that grade, and from an early age, that's what we're taught. And by the time we get
Hmm.
to high school,
Yeah.
particularly if you plan to go, to college
Hmm.
or pursue some type of postgraduate studies, they're going to focus on the focus is on grades. You got to
Right.
get good grades.
Hmm.
In high school, you got to get a good SAT score.
Right.
So it's
Right.
like all of that stuff, and kids have a certain amount of pressure on them too. I think
Hmm.
that's one of the things that probably our parents didn't focus on, and you know subsequently some of us suffered from that.
Right.
Now I know you mentioned as far as like going to a new high school and being a new kid. Were you able to make friends, and if so, who were like some of your closest friends from high school, and are you still close with them to this day?
It's interesting, man, because this is how I started to connect with people, right? Because I was like a fish out of water when I got there. And when I tried to connect with people, it really wasn't happening. So I had to dig into my bag of tricks. And one of the things that I did in middle school was I used to sell candy and stuff. So I started being a kid that started selling candy at the high school. And I saw that that was what started to open up doors of me being able to build relationships. And then I got cool with this Chaldean guy there named Joe. And he was in the computers like I was in the computers. And he pretty much taught me about how to, at this time, I know it wasn't right, but learning how to get on Napster, get the music, and eventually that led me into being like the person that would sell the CDs. So like I essentially assimilated to that community of strangers by being somebody that met a need that they had, whether it was they needed snacks or whether they needed music. So I say all that to say that I had acquaintances, but if I'm looking back, I never really had friends. And the
Okay.
reason why I say that, especially at the high school that I went to, is a few people that I would have, considered my friends. I feel like I just connected with them more. Like we had classes. Like that's the thing that I can say. The reason why I don't call them friends is if I remove the fact that we had classes together, that's how we all kind of connected and got to know each other. I don't think it would have been the same. Like I don't think if we hadn't have been in those classes and we were seeing each other all the time that it would have been the same. A lot of those people I didn't really hang out with outside of school. I mean, we was cool at school, but like outside of that, I really didn't really hang out with them. To be completely honest, I was much of a homebody, and it's different when I look back because the people that I actually ended up kind of connecting with more on like a friend basis that I would call friends, they didn't go to my high school. I actually met
Mhm.
them when I was working, so
Okay.
like that was my thing is I was trying to get a job. Like I wanted to earn money even as a high school kid. Like it was cool doing all that, but once I was able to actually go get a job, my second job actually, I was working at a supermarket here, and that's where I met two of my homeboys, man. Two of my homeboys that you know, uh, unfortunately, one of my homeboys, he passed back in 2015.
Okay.
Probably one of the ones I was closest with, and that really hit me. But I met him back in high school. There, my other homeboy, we actually just reconnected earlier this year. Man, it had been a while since we had talked, but
Good.
it was good to catch up with him. And it's interesting, Kyle. there have been people that I've met along my high school journey, and I feel like I've gone through so many transitions and stages in life that people just they don't always go to those places with me. And
Hmm.
the saddest to me is like one of my best friends growing up was like my cousin. And like his life went in a different direction. And then, like after that happened, man, I haven't seen him in years. And like it's crazy, man. Like I never was that person that had like all of these friends. And to a certain extent, I kind of would be interested to see what that would have been like.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm grateful for the experiences that I did have. And I'm always still open to like making friends. It's just even harder as an adult.
Yeah, it is. It is because I mean, especially with social media, you don't know if people are as who they portray to be, or
Right,
or if they are who they say they are, and that
right.
goes with friendships, dating, relationships,
Mhm.
the whole nine, like business partnerships, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was actually the opposite, man. The close friends that I had from high school,
Mhm.
we're still close to this day.
That's what's up,
Um,
man.
yeah, man, I'm still running with the same cats that I
I
knew
like
from
that.
like middle school.
That's what's
Um,
up.
one of my best friends, I talk about him on the podcast a lot, and I got to get him on. I don't think he's ever been on the podcast. My boy Jay
Oh man,
Fresh.
yo, you got to make that
Yeah, I
happen.
got to get him on here. I
You
got to
got
get
to
him on
do
here. He
that.
lives in LA, and like I mean, like we either talk or text, and we talk or text every day. And
Mhm,
so like it's nothing for me to be texting him. I'm texting him. It's 12:30 here, but it's
mhm.
9:30 there. And
Yeah.
then like he's a night owl, so so he might send me a text at 1 a.m. I
Mhm,
respond when I get up at 6, and
mhm.
he's still up because like he has this thing like he likes to go to bed when the sun comes up. So
Okay.
we'll text like that, and we always stayed in touch.
Okay.
Um, and then like I said, social media, and what's interesting is that I always tell my kids, like I
Mhm.
said, you guys have tools to make sure that you can stay in touch with your friends. I was like,
Right.
when I came out of high school in 1991, I said I had to write my boys letters. We had to write each
Right.
other letters to try to
Right.
keep in touch and keep everything going. So um yeah, man, all of my close friends from high school, we're still close to this day.
Mhm.
Still heavily involved in each other's lives.
Mhm.
I can't really think of anybody that fell off.
Mhm.
Um, but I think over a period of time, and over that period of time in high school, you really truly know who your friends are or aren't.
Mhm.
And I think
Right. Right.
it's good that you can make that distinction, because
Yeah.
like I was telling my oldest son, I was like, he's always said, "Yeah, Dad, that's my friend." Such and such. And I'm like, and then one day I stopped him. I said, "Dion, are you sure that's your friend?" I was like,
Right.
"Have you ever been to his house? Do you know his
Right.
parents? Did
Right.
his parents know you?" I was
Right.
like, just because you know him and y'all got a couple of class
Mhm.
together and y'all crack jokes together, I said that doesn't mean
Right.
make him your friend. I was like, "Have you
Yeah.
talked to him? Has he confided in you in some things?" I was
Mhm.
like, those are things to help bond, friendships. And
Right.
I just so there's not many people that can say that I was their friend if they never came to my house. I mean, like
Right.
if you never
Nah,
came to
that's
my
real.
house, that
That's real.
we weren't friends. We was associates, like you said. And
Right.
what I've learned as we've gotten older is that it's okay to have associates.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
okay to have associates. Nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned the because I just did a podcast talking about, when music died, and one of the things that helped, that was the name of the podcast, when music died. One of the things that helped, kill the music industry was the ability to create your own music, meaning from the Napster and Kazaa and
Right.
LimeWires, and you
Yep.
get song
You
you
you know you know all of
file
them,
share.
bro.
Yeah. Oh, I know all about it. File sharing. You download it. You put it on a CD. You burn it to the CD. So now you got the new Jay-Z CD, and you can sell
Right.
the new or go give it away. To your
Uh-huh.
friends. So that leads me to my next question. Did that make
Mhm.
you popular? Would you consider yourself to be popular, kind of popular, or not popular at all?
No, I would say with the understanding of what I know high school popularity to be,
Hmm.
I was not popular.
Okay.
Now, it surprises me that more people knew me than I knew me, because it was after high school and like people would be like, "Oh yeah, I know you," like, and I would be shocked because it's case in point, like one of my friends that me and her went to high school.
Okay.
And I never connected with her at high school whatsoever. Ironically enough, I met her because she was the roommate of my girlfriend at the time after I had, left graduated high school, whatever. And me and her, we ended up becoming cool. And she went to my high school and she was like, "Yeah, I know you." Like, and then I'll meet other people that I've gone to school and they're like, "Yeah, yo, I know you." And I'm sitting here like, okay, dang, like these people, and I asked them like, how y'all know me, and it was like, oh man, like, yo, you the guy that you sold candy, like you was the guy that sold the CDs or whatever. But it's interesting going back to but nah, I say all that to say I don't want to go off on a tangent. Like, nah, I wasn't popular. To me, I don't think I was popular at all. I feel like people knew me. I definitely was able to, go in and out of different groups. I never felt like I never was bullied in high
Mhm.
school or nothing like that. So I never was on the outs. I just kind of navigated my own way. Like I was a hustler, man. Like to
Right.
be completely honest, all I did was I kept my head up. I was a good student and I made my paper. Outside of that. And like I was cool with everybody. Like I just ironically enough, when I think back about it, like being shy and all that stuff, like I'll be up in people classes, it'd be like the first day, I'm like, yo, y'all, I got some snacks, man. If you need a
Mhm.
snack, and then like people know me and like that just it just was what it was.
Yeah,
But
you probably didn't consider yourself to be popular, but that the candy guy is popular, Jay. The
but
candy and the CD guy is popular.
for that
Yeah, if
reason,
for no reason, if for nothing else at all,
yeah.
that guy is pretty popular.
Yeah.
Um, I played sport. I played sports. Well, I played football primarily.
Oh
So I
man,
was
so I
pretty
know you was
popular.
popular then.
Yeah, I was. I can't sit here and say that I wasn't popular at Wilson. Um, I was what they call a high visibility kid, in a lot of
Mhm.
activities and stuff like that. But I enjoyed that. But also, even in that, I think in my popularity, I didn't try to isolate myself from, you know, certain groups. Like I
Okay.
was obviously playing football. I'm what you would call a jock, if you will, but I'm cool with the other jocks. But even the little nerdy kids, like I'm cool with them too. Cause I wasn't I don't think I could. I don't think I was the type that would go past people. If so, like somebody spoke, I'm gonna speak.
Mhm.
If I
Yeah.
make eye contact with you, I'm gonna speak. That's just how I was raised.
Right.
Especially if I know your name. Now, the thing that used to bother me, Jay, was like if somebody knew my name and I didn't know
Mhm.
their name. Like
Right.
that would irk me. Like so I'm walking down the hall. Hey, Kyle. I'm like, hey, what's up? Oh,
Right.
what's,
And
what's her
don't
name?
have no
What's her
clue who they
name?
are.
Oh shit. Oh, her name's Tanya. Okay, no, I remember that. Okay, I'm gonna call her. And then the next day I see, hey, Kyle. Hey, what's up, Tanya? How you doing? Like that
Right.
type of thing. Um, but yeah, I was pretty popular, but I in that popularity, I think I didn't, it wasn't something that I, like tried to take advantage of or anything like
You
that.
didn't exploit, yeah,
Nah, nah, nah,
yeah.
nah. I just tried to be me,
Because
man.
popularity come with privileges, man, for
Yeah, it
sure.
does, it does, but it also comes with a lot of eyes on you,
It
and
does. That it does too.
I was very cognizant of that, and so like when you're popular and you get a girlfriend, so it goes around the school. Oh, such and such and such and such is dating.
Right.
I ain't really like that part of the popularity because my
Yeah.
business is my business. So
Right.
I want to I want to be low key, and
I hear that.
obviously being popular in high school, you can't be but so low key.
Right.
so
That's right. Right.
so the I know you mentioned, and I forgot to ask you, with you going to a new high school, what was the racial dynamics as far as because I'm assuming being in Detroit, you probably
Mhm.
were predominantly black high school or
Yeah. So
predominantly schools where you were going. What was the ratio in the school that you went to?
Yeah, so ironically enough, even though it was a suburb that had been primarily um inhabited by black people, like
Okay,
the people that
okay,
moved out of Detroit, that was like the suburb that they moved into. So I remember I remember back when I was in middle school, like one of my cousins, like their parents moved out there before, like more black people moved out there. By the time my high school started, Southfield was pretty much primarily black. So the high school that I went to, like the white kids was like sprinkles. Like it was primarily a black high school for sure.
yep.
So,
Same here. My school, Wilson, was probably about 90% black.
mhm,
Maybe another 10% white. It's the
yeah.
dynamics have changed a little bit now,
Mhm.
but it's still
What was the
prominent.
teachers like?
The
Was it
teachers were
diverse too?
pretty well. That's a good question. Um, no, I had mostly white teachers.
Okay.
But we did have quite a few. I probably say the ratio is probably maybe 60-40 white.
Okay.
Um, but for the most part, we didn't. I can't really think of too many teachers that I had that was just there for the check, like you mentioned a little earlier.
Mhm.
Um,
Yo, I definitely think he was there for the check.
now there's always a few. There's always a
Yeah,
few.
there is, man.
There's always a few, man, because we had one teacher, and I'm not gonna say his name, but anybody listening knows. He would he was a I think he was I think he was a science teacher,
Mhm.
and he would have an ice tray, and he would take vodka and pour it
Uh-oh.
in the ice tray, and then
Uh-oh.
put the ice tray in the freezer,
Oh, he
right?
next level.
Right. So we'd be in class, and he'd be like, hey, Jeremy, go get my ice tray. And so they go get the ice tray, take the ice tray. And so he's got a glass. And so vodka doesn't freeze, but if you put a little bit of water in it, it's watered down. So, you basically have an ice cube, semi filled with vodka. And of course,
Right.
we didn't notice at the time, and somebody told me, he's like, hey man, he putting vodka in that ice. And I'm like, no, he's not. I said, so you're telling me he's teaching this class and he's drinking vodka at the same time? And it's
Right.
like, yeah, he got a drinking problem. I was like, man, get out of here.
Yo,
I
that
didn't
is
want to believe it
crazy.
until I saw it, man. I saw it for myself.
That's wild right there, man. Yeah, I don't know. That's next level. And that's definitely next level, man. That's
Right,
next
right.
level.
So yeah,
Like the teacher that I had, like I said, he
mhm.
he just seemed disconnected and like he just seemed like late. Like you know how some teachers are like they're excited. Like this dude just always was just like, yeah, come on in. All right, do number one, two. All right, y'all do that homework over there. All right, get out of here. Like that's
Wow.
just how he was. He was
Yeah,
just
he
like
definitely
just
was there for
laid
the
back,
check.
like he ain't even really care. And like except when he was, entertaining the young female students, like that was the
Right.
only time he was, a little bit more energetic. But for the most part, he just didn't really care. But no, I was just curious to know like what the teacher breakdown is too, because that's something that most people don't really talk about that much. And I think for me, when I look back, I can't speak for all of the classes, but I think the majority of the teachers that I had were actually like black. I definitely had like that first year, freshman year, I think was the year that I had the most white teachers. Like
Okay.
the one I was telling you about, my English teacher was white. My science teacher was white. I think like that year, the majority of the teachers was white. But then like after that, it kind of opened up a little bit more, and there were a few more black teachers. Like I had a black well, two
Hmm.
black English teachers, black math teachers, computer teachers. So yeah, but to your point, I think it probably was more balanced than I realized. Just the
Hmm.
fact that the classes I had, it was a little bit more after that first year, more black.
You
Uh,
know what's interesting? I don't now that you mention it, I don't really recall having a lot of black male teachers.
that right there. I don't think
Unfortunately,
I had any except for
right.
Jim. I think Jim was the only time I had a black male teacher. Like real talk.
Unfortunately, the teacher I was just talking about with the vodka nitrates, he's black. Um,
Oh no! Like I totally had pictured a white dude, man.
but
Yo,
yeah, but nah, man, I think I can't really, and I don't know if it's because of the classes, because like you said, I was taking accelerated classes.
Mhm.
But nah, man, I'm going through the years in my head as I'm talking, and no, I had a handful of black teachers, and it's not to say that we didn't have black teachers there, because we did, black male
Mhm.
teachers. Obviously, we had more women, but as far as the teachers that I had, I could probably count three off the
Okay.
top of my head, and that's including my PE teacher, who was my football coach.
Mhm.
Um, but my probably our most interesting teacher uh was a white guy, Coach Ostrander. We used to call him Strand, rest in peace.
Mhm.
Um, he was my mentor in high school,
Oh,
and
wow.
he
Nice.
would wear he'd come to school in a suit, three-piece suit, and like some Nikes. And he was probably the most interesting teacher at the school, and he had the most haters. Like, he had
Ooh.
students that hated him, he had
Oh,
teachers
wow.
that hated him, because he was this white guy. And some people thought he was trying to be black. I don't
Mhm.
know. There was all kind of rumors and stuff about him, but he had this he ran this drug prevention program through the school, and he
Okay.
got us to participate in it, and it was a huge success. And but yeah, he was probably the most interesting I mean, like, I'll put it like this: if you go to Florence and you meet anybody from Wilson, and you say,
Mhm.
"Man, what's up with that teacher, Strand?" the opinions will vary. You'll have some people
Okay.
but there's nobody in the middle. Like you either
Okay.
love Strand or you hate him.
Mhm.
There's no in between. And he's passed away, but he was my mentor in high school. Great guy. He was always dope with
Nice.
me. I can
Yeah.
say that.
Right.
Um, Now, when we talk about high schools, obviously one of the biggest things that happens in high schools is, your sports rivals or just your
Mhm.
rivals in general. Who was the rivals at your high school?
So the rivals, clearly being in Southfield with it being two different schools, it was definitely Southfield High. They were definitely the rival for our school. And yeah, man, I'll be honest though, I never really was like the whole. I feel like when I look back on high school, I was there, but I didn't really have like the traditional high school experience. Like
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I didn't really like go to like the sporting events or anything like that. And it could be because like I wasn't an athlete or
Hmm.
anything. And due to the fact, like I was telling you, like I never really established true friendships with people. Like I was acquainted with people, but it was like
Hmm.
after that school bell rang, that's kind of it. Like it was just like I just went back home and like that was my connection to school was only during like school time. So it was very interesting in that regard that I didn't really have like that traditional high school experience.
Okay. Okay. Well, ours is a little bit different because in Florence, again, Florence is a small place, but we had
Uh,
three main high schools. It was
oh man,
Wilson.
yo, three high schools in the same
Yes.
small place. Oh
Yes.
man, I know
Yes.
that was some rivals.
Yeah, man. So it's Wilson, and West Florence, and then
Mhm.
South Florence.
Okay.
At the time, South Florence was probably 60-40 white, black.
Mhm.
West Florence probably 70-30 white, black. And
Okay.
then obviously we're the predominantly so we're the only black high school. So
Okay.
um, so that in and of itself,
Right.
creates a rivalry. And then obviously, through the sports and football, basketball, baseball, whatever, anytime you're playing against somebody in the city, you
Mhm.
know, it's big. It could
Right.
be it could be an academic challenge, and you want to beat South Florence, you want to beat West Florence, and I
Yeah,
think
that
part
went
of it
deep.
is that because one, Florence again isn't really a big place relatively speaking, and then a lot of
Mhm.
times a lot of kids were like me, their parents grew up there. So if your
Okay.
parents, grew up there, and then your parents may have gone to school there, maybe your parents
Mhm.
went to South Florence, maybe your parents went to Wilson, West Florence, you know, that rivalry was within you. So it's like
Yeah.
by the time you get to middle school, definitely by the time you get to high school, like you have
Mhm.
your favorites. And then,
Right.
you have some kids that are like, I know people who were living in the district to go to South Florence, but they didn't want to go. They went to Wilson. And I know
Mhm.
people that went to West Florence that was zoned to go to West Florence, but they wanted to go to South Florence. So it's a
Right.
lot of different things like that. But those are our main rivals. And we want to beat them every time. I don't
Of
care what
course.
it is. We want to we want to beat them every single time. Um, in your city,
Mhm.
I know you said you were in the suburbs. Did the kids mostly hang out in your city, or did they go back to Detroit, or what was the places where kids hung out at?
Um,
High
I would
school kids.
say I would say that I'll be honest. Like I gotta be honest. Like I didn't really hang out a lot. So like
Hmm.
the times that I did go and hang out with my friends, like we would go to other schools. Like this is like our rivalry would be to come over to their school because we got out
Hmm.
earlier. So we would go
Okay.
over to the old park, we would go over to the Ferndale, and like we would be getting their girls. So like that's what we would do. And like they hated it
I
because
love
they're
it.
like, how y'all gonna roll up on our campus, trying to talk to our girls. And that was one of the fun things that we used to do. That was usually like in my junior and my senior year, once we had the whip and everything. And
Hmm.
other than that, like I would hang out with my boys. We like go to clubs. I think that was one of the main things that was popping back when I was in high school. Is it was a
Wow.
club in Detroit called St. Andrews. That's where a lot of people would go and
Yep.
hang
Yep.
out.
I heard
And
of it.
I'll be honest, man, I just wasn't like the whole party scene type of guy. And I went though. I went with my friends a few times, and that yeah, like it wasn't my scene, but I did it because that's what my homeboys wanted to do.
Right.
But for
Right.
the
Right.
most part, I would say it was like clubbing. Like that was the thing that people was into when I was in high school, is like either going to like some club or going to like a party or something. And yeah, that those are like the only main ones that I remember. Like there may have been some other hangout spots that I just wasn't privy to, but for
Hmm.
me, that's really like the extent that I knew of.
Yeah. For us,
What
it
about for
was
y'all?
for us, it was like, I mean, it's funny you said clubs, man. I wish we had clubs. Like that would have been so dope. But I mean, Florence ain't that big of a place to be having no clubs for high school kids. But but it was the bowling alley was like a hangout spot.
I forgot
And
about that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the
We did
bowling
used to
alley
do
would
the bowling
always be,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Any type of spot like that would be cool because that'd be a spot, the skating rink, um, and then obviously the mall. We had a mall, or still have a mall.
Yeah.
Um, and so those are kind of like the hangout spots. But pretty much like I would hang out, at my friend's house. But what's interesting, Jay, is like my house became the hangout spot. And I've talked about
Nice.
it on this podcast. Like my crib would be the spot where like we would play basketball in the driveway, and
Mhm.
then like we'd be done, and I'd be like, all right, man, what we gonna do tonight? What we gonna do tonight? Then like let's say it's summertime, what we gonna do tonight? Oh man, I don't know what we gonna do. And then everybody go home, shower, and then they come back to my house. I'm like, man, where y'all going? Like, I'm trying to go out. I've been here all
Right,
day.
like this is my home. I'm
Yeah, this is
always
my
here.
house, man. It's like, man, because they know they could come to my house, they could eat.
Mhm.
We had plenty of space in the house, so like they could kick it, and there was very little adult. Like my mom and my aunts who I live with,
Mhm.
they would be out the way. Like they wouldn't, they come through and say hello or whatever like that. Girls could come over.
Mhm.
We had a pool, so
Oh,
we
man.
we we
Yo,
could
that
go.
was the spot. Why would we be anywhere else? Like, come on, Kyle, like you giving more details like your spot wasn't yo, of course we about to be over there. We got the pool, we got the girls,
Yeah, but
little
I ain't want that,
adult
Jay. I wanted to
supervision.
go. I wanted to get away from that.
I know because it was your house. That's the only thing. But like, think
Yeah,
about it though. If that was somebody else's house that had all of
right.
those same amenities, then you would be like, "Oh yeah, yo, let's go over
Right.
there."
Right. You're right. So nah, I just it was I would be trying to get away. And then they,
Yeah,
oh man, come on, man. Man, you should throw a pool party. I'm like, no, because that means I gotta clean up for the pool party. It means I gotta get the pool
right,
right for the pool party.
right.
But we end up throwing a pool party. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was fun. But my house literally became the hangout spot, especially as we got older
Mhm.
into high school and then on into college. My house was definitely the hangout spot. Now you and I are big music fans. So let's talk about R&B. You gave us the years. What was some of the R&B albums that came out that you were bumping back when you were in high school?
Oh man, back in high school, I definitely was like this gonna sound controversial today, but like
Okay,
back then
I
it
know what
was
you
that
about.
R. Kelly. Like yo, that R. Kelly man, that was at that TP2.com, like yo,
Hey man,
like that album was
at the
that album,
time,
yeah, at the time,
at the
that album was
time,
fire. That
he
album was
was what he
fire.
was.
Right. Aside from that, another hit one at the time was that Usher 8701 was popping. Like,
Mm,
yo, yeah, that joint right there was flame. Um, I'm trying to think. Like, I know like Music Soul Child, Alicia Keys, all of them kind of like came out around that time.
mhm,
But like for what I was on, like I made those CDs for other people. I listened to like whatever the hot song was, but
mhm,
I think I was still too young to like truly appreciate it at the time. Um, I'm trying to think. Oh, I used to listen to Genuine around that time as well.
mm.
He had a few albums that dropped. But yeah, for me, like those was like the main albums that I remember like really having in rotation when it comes to R&B.
Man, for me, again, a little older.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm
What was you
talking like
bumping?
it's like 80 from 87. Because I think, yeah, the school year started 87 to 91. Man, I'm talking about, New Edition, um, Keith Sweat, man, listen. Um, BBD, Bobby Brown,
Oh man, y'all
I
had
mean,
the
Al B.
classic.
Shore. Uh, it was, well, obviously the greats,
Mhm,
Prince, Michael Jackson.
mhm,
Um, it was a great time for music as far as on the R&B side. Now, conversely, what about hip hop? Because now you
mhm.
from the D, man. I mean,
Right, right.
I don't need to tell people about Detroit's rich music history, but
Mhm.
people also need to know that Detroit has a huge imprint on hip hop. And
Yeah.
and in my opinion,
Mhm.
Detroit has birthed the greatest hip hop producer of all time in Jay Dilla,
Yeah.
um, which is my dude. Uh, So what were you bumping as far as hip hop that came out in high school when you were there?
Back in high school, so like clearly, Eminem, like
Mhm.
that I remember how many of those CDs I had to make for people, So Eminem was definitely flame. At the time, I was really into like Hot Boys. It was before I don't think Lil Wayne had gone solo at that time,
Nah,
but
he
like
he
he
was
was
he
he
was
was my
still
favorite. He was my favorite Hot Boy, but like at the time it was Hot Boys with Juvenile, BG, all of them. Um, I think 50 Cent came on the scene like when I was
yep.
graduating. That was
Right,
like
you graduating.
'03,
Yep,
and like that was
2003.
the
Yep.
only album everybody was bumping in '03, bro.
Everybody.
Like everybody, like 50 took it by storm. I'm trying to think, man. Who else? Oh, how could I forget, man? Like Jay-Z, like the Blueprint, that was my joint.
Hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think. Was I in high school when like DMX was a high? Was that high school
Yeah,
or was that
yeah. You were
like Rough
probably
Riders? And them? It
yeah. That's
like
probably
because
like when
I
you
was
first
in
started high
music for
school.
so long. I forget. I'm trying to stay in this whole 2000 to 2004 block because there's other albums and stuff that I know was hot, but I know that was like after, like I
Hmm.
know like the game, like he dropped, that was after the fact. I think Ja Rule and all of them was when they was hot, that was after the fact. Um, but yeah, like those was the main artists that I remember like making CDs for. Whenever it was a hot song, I would always do like a mixtape. But like
Okay.
Jay-Z, anything going on with Rockefeller, um, like the Hot Boys, they was on point during that time. And like I said, Eminem, like Eminem was always in rotation. I would say those are like the main three, and then that last year high school, definitely 50 Cent.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt,
Yeah.
man. You that was that, especially like when 50 Cent came out. I remember that everybody had that music. Everybody had
Every
his music.
bro, like
You couldn't go anywhere.
you could not go to like the student parking lot without hearing 50 blaring from somebody whips, because that was back in the day when everybody used to have a box in the back.
Yep,
So
yep.
like always heard somebody like blaring that 50, man, all day.
Yeah, man. For me, I'm talking about like, and it's most of the people who listen to this podcast, they know because I've covered this music all across this platform. But
Mhm.
everybody from Eric B and Rakim, and these were some of the debut artists, Run DMC, uh, Public Enemy,
Yeah.
NWA, Ice Cube,
How was that
Tribe
like,
came.
like
It was
when hip hop
crazy.
was really starting to like kind of come on the scene and be popularized? Like, how was that?
It was crazy, Jay, because the probably the best way that I can describe it was like it was like crack.
Mm.
Like you had to have it
Like,
because
I don't know anything about that,
well,
but
I mean I don't know anything about crack either, but it was what
so you mean
my
like
point
how
is
it just
saying
took the scene by storm and just threw the world upside down?
it was truly an addiction because here's the thing.
Okay.
Rap came on the heels of, or at least rap's ascension came
Mhm,
on the heels of breakdancing. And I just remember hearing people say, oh man, that breakdancing stuff, it's a fad. It's gonna pass.
mhm,
Rap's gonna pass. And rap had been around since 73, but it was sectional. And so
mhm,
when you started venturing out, and it started touching places like Miami, and you had Uncle Luke and Two Live Crew, and it started going out west, and you had NWA, and then it
right.
started going down south, and you had groups like the Ghetto Boys. It
Mhm,
was just something, man. Like honestly, as a fan, we didn't know when it was going to end,
mm,
so it was our thing to just try to consume as much of it as we could.
right.
And so, again, like I remember my boy Jay Fresh, who I referred to earlier.
Mhm,
I remember him playing Easy E for me,
mm.
and we wasn't supposed to be listening to nothing cussing like that or whatever
Yo,
like that.
trust me, I know that. I went through that when I was in middle school, man. Like our
Everybody
parents was
got those
like, "You
stories,
listen to that
man.
Bone Thugs and Harmony and all of them." Don't Trick Daddy, what is that?
Man, listen, I tell this story all the time about how my aunt heard me listening to an Easy E tape because I had it blasting so loud. She was walking past me in the room and she heard it. And she was
Oh
like,
man,
"What is that?" So
Easy
she
was
put the
wild.
headphones on and she listened to it. And Easy just a cussing and a B and this and that. And she was like, I'm gonna play this for your mama when she gets here." And I was like, "Oh Lord." So,
Oh
so she
man.
played 10 seconds of it for my mom. And my mom was like, put that in the trash. And so she told me to put it in trash, and she was going off, and she was like, "Don't bring that kind of music in my house," blah, 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 blah. And man, I took that tape and I put it in my pocket and walked past the trash can. And it was, we were at that stage of life where, rebelling was cool. So if you told me not to do something, then I was really going to do it.
Right.
So I said all that to say this. We thought that rap was going to end. So we didn't know when it was going to end. So it was our thing just to consume as much as we could. So
Right.
Slick Rick, Dana Dane, the Juice Crew, Big Daddy Kane, Cool G Rap, all of these people came out when I was in high school. And
Wow.
so I just remember, like, you know, hip hop was just, like I said, the best thing I could, we didn't even call it hip hop. It was just rap.
Right.
Tribe came out. Um, even, you know, probably, and this was what we call the golden era of hip hop. And even as when by the time we got to like 1991, when Cube left NWA, you could kind of see the music kind of shifting toward from the Afrocentrism of, and it also what
Like
rap did too
gangster,
for us.
gangster.
Yeah, it got gangster. It got gangster. But you know, it also encouraged us. It also, you know, I remember, you know, hearing Chuck D talk about people like Marcus Garvey. And I heard I could get more Black history in a rap song than I could get at my high school. And that
Right.
said a lot, you know what I mean? So
Yes.
it was a lot. So and I could talk all day about it, but we got exposed to some great music. And I feel so thankful and privileged that I
Right.
lived through that part of my life, because it definitely molded me. It
I
definitely
bet,
molded me.
man.
Um,
Yeah.
and of course
Was it the soundtrack of life, right?
oh
That's
yeah,
what they
easily the soundtrack of life.
say.
I couldn't do this podcast without asking you about the sports people, the who dominated, the professional athletes that dominated sports when you're in high school.
Oh man, yo, it's funny, man. I feel like I should have better answers for these questions, but it just kind of goes to show you like where I was as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really didn't get into sports, honestly, Kyle,
Okay.
until after high school. Like
Okay. Wow.
I
Okay.
remember, and even that was after high school, like when the Pistons like won.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the Pistons went to the championship, maybe the year before they won, that I really started like watching basketball and stuff like that. But before that, I really wasn't a sports kid. Like I didn't play it, nor I didn't watch it either, to be
Okay.
completely honest. So I don't know. Like I really wasn't paying attention, like to be honest. like like for real,
Understood.
like yeah, and it's funny when I think back at that because I look at like, dang, where were my interests? I know back then, like it was either talking to girls, hanging out, you know, with my cousin, playing video games. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
definitely like big into games and stuff like that at the time. Um, and watching like TV, going to the movies. But really, I think, and this is to be honest, I think it had to do with the fact that, you know, being an only child living with my mom, like my mom didn't really watch sports like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't exposed to nobody watching sports
Right.
where that interest would pick up. It wasn't until after the fact, once the Pistons was like in the playoffs or something, and like I don't even remember how that happened. Like I think maybe like one of my boys or something, like they kind of turned me onto the game and like we went.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we won the championship, my boy scooped me up. We was down in Detroit, you know, partying with everybody. Like I remember all of that.
Right.
And I remember going forward, I really got into sports like real heavy and
Mm-hmm.
was watching it. It started started with basketball, and then later, you know, like I started getting into football and really kind of getting tapped in. But in high school, I was just oblivious to it, you know, because to kind of give you some insight, similar to you, how you were saying, like, you know, like your mom and aunt, they weren't really like always there and like kind of mixing and mingling with what you had going on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I know now looking back, my mom was a single mother that had to work to take care of us. So a lot of the time my mom would be working. So like
Mm-hmm.
when I'm either at a family member's house or when I'm at home, you know, I'm chilling playing video games or whatever. So I really wasn't as into sports as most kids probably were at that time. And you know, it's not the best answer, but like I gotta answer honestly,
No,
man.
you know, that makes sense. That makes total sense, because really, if you think about it from a young Black man's perspective, particularly those formative years in high school, we're
Mhm,
into one of three things: cars, video games, or
mhm.
sports. That's
Yeah.
it. So like you
I was
checked
into
off.
those first two, man, because
So I was gonna
I
say, you checked
promise
off
you,
the
I
box.
love cars.
You checked off the box. You check. We're gonna check off those boxes at that age, and
Mhm,
so it's not surprising that you weren't into sports. And that's not a bad answer either, because like I said, everybody wasn't. I
mhm,
was the opposite. I wasn't in the. By the time I got to high school, I was still playing video games. I was still playing. So I was
mhm.
playing video games, but I was definitely into sports because that's what everybody, all of my friends, we just
Right.
it's just something we did growing up.
Mhm.
Obviously for me, the sports figures back then was, Michael Jeffrey Jordan in basketball.
Yes. Yes.
Um, loved
So
watching
can
that
I
dude.
ask an off-topic question?
Go
And I
ahead,
don't
go
know,
ahead.
this might open up, like, so to you, is he the GOAT? Because
Yeah,
it's the whole
yeah,
LeBron
he's the go.
like between him and LeBron, like, and somebody that has actually experienced him, like when he was still playing in his prime. I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, man. We did a podcast on it. Me and my man King Germ. Shout out to King Germ. Going
Mhm,
back and forth about Jordan and LeBron. I'll say this, man. First and foremost, and I say this in all seriousness, we can't really determine a GOAT, because really we didn't see. You would have to really get that answer from somebody who saw everybody, somebody who
mhm,
saw Kareem in his prime, somebody who saw Wilt in his prime, somebody who saw
mhm,
Bill Russell in his prime. I saw
mhm,
Magic in his prime. I saw Kareem in his prime. Well, not in his prime. I saw him on the downside of his prime. I saw
mhm,
Bird. I saw Isaiah with the Pistons. I saw, LeBron. I saw Jordan from day
mhm.
one. Um, so there's really no way of quantifying it. But
Right.
LeBron is, if I had to rank players, as far
Mhm,
as the players that I've seen, I'd
mhm,
have to rank him second. And there's nothing wrong
mhm.
with being ranked second.
Right.
Nothing at all. Now, there's
Right.
some kids like, our oldest son is 22.
Mhm.
If he says, Dad, LeBron's the greatest player I've seen, okay. I
Right.
can't argue with that because that's what he saw. He's only seen
Mhm,
tapes of
mhm.
Jordan of what I've shown him as a child.
Yeah.
And so no, it's a fun debate. It's a great
Mhm,
barbershop debate. I'm a
right.
lean towards Mike, but
Mhm.
LeBron, I think, is a phenomenal athlete and a
He is.
phenomenal. He's a great guy. LeBron,
Mhm.
and I said it on the podcast, and I'll say it again. LeBron strikes me as the kind of guy I want to hang out with. I don't necessarily know if
Right.
I'd have hung out with Mike because Mike
Nah,
was a
I
wild
don't
boy.
even know if Jordan would wanna hang out, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
just
Mike was a wild boy even back then, and Mike didn't have social media, so we didn't know what he was getting into.
yeah.
Um, but
See, because like
LeBron's
with Mike, it's like, yo, what is he calculating? Like
right.
that documentary, it was very eye opening.
It
Yeah,
was.
ex,
It was.
exquisitely done, like no
And
doubt.
it, you know what, Jay, it confirmed a lot of what we heard back then,
Mhm.
but we couldn't confirm because one, we didn't have social media. So,
Right,
we didn't know what Michael Jordan did on a day-to-day basis because you
right,
couldn't get that close to him. Where,
right.
where LeBron grew up in an era where everything is right here in front of our face. And
Exactly.
for him to be able to navigate through his career and be scandal free,
Yeah.
says a lot. And I don't know, and I
Right.
said this on another podcast, like I don't know, even the whole thing of Jordan's dad getting murdered. I
Mhm.
don't know in the gambling allegations and stuff. I don't know in the social media era how Jordan would have handled that.
Right, right, right.
That would have
Yeah,
been a lot to deal with.
yeah.
And it was a lot to deal with him, dealing with that in and of itself
Mhm.
during that time. But you add social media and everybody having a comment and everybody having a blog and
Yeah.
a podcast about it. I mean, that's a lot.
And
But
given his personality too,
exactly, exactly.
like he would have had to make too many enemies. Like every game he would be coming out there to like, I mean, it would either, I think it would be like the worst of the best,
hmm
because for somebody that needs motivation, other people doubting them to fuel them,
hmm
it would be good in that sense. But like, you know what they say, too much of anything is not
It's
good.
not
Like,
good
bro,
for you.
like every night, like you turn it on, and to be honest, it kind of remind me of like KD. Like
hmm
he doesn't allow it to impact his game, but I
hmm
feel like all of the stuff that fans be saying, all of the social media stuff, it affects him off the court, and I think that's worse.
Yeah.
Like to be honest, because it's like, dog, they controlling you in your everyday life. Like
Yeah.
like they really pushing your buttons to the degree where like it goes beyond the game. You can get in the game
hmm
and you're not affected at all. But then off the court, like somebody make a little tweet, it's a high school kid, and you feel like you gotta respond back to him and everything. It's like, bro, like what's going on?
Yeah, you and I came up in an era where we just weren't going to give anybody else that much power. We just weren't,
Right.
and it's not what people say or do to you, that you allow them to affect you. But yeah,
I'll
man,
say
it
this though, Kyle.
was that.
I definitely I do not envy kids of today because I don't want to go back and do high school with
Mm-mm.
social media. Like
No,
that's a
no.
whole nother beast. Like, and I'm grateful for the fact that I didn't even know what a cell phone was, and the fact that like actually having one until like long after I graduated from high school.
Facts, facts.
So yeah,
Yes, that cell phones. I don't even. did cell phones exist? I don't even think if cell phones existed when I was in high
It
school, they
was
were
the
in
big
cars.
briefcase joints
Yeah,
back then,
it was
right?
the brick phone that you had in the car. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm so glad that we came up in the era that we did, man. Because
But did
while
y'all
we
have
don't,
pagers?
no, I didn't,
Okay, so
Jay,
okay.
I didn't get a pager. I didn't get a pager until you were probably in high school. I probably got a pager in 99,
Okay, okay.
98,
Yeah,
99, somewhere around there. Because I
yeah.
remember I was here in Atlanta because I moved to Atlanta in 97.
Okay.
And I remember being somewhere. No, I take that back. I got a pager in 97 because I remember being out and about and my girlfriend paged me
Mhm.
and I had to because I don't smoke, right? So
Uh,
I used to keep a bunch of quarters in my ashtray. And so I had
uh,
to pull over to a payphone.
yeah.
Kids, a
People
payphone
like,
is
what are those?
yeah, a payphone is something just what I just said. You put money in it and you pay to
Right.
talk. And so I used to keep quarters in there. I remember she paged me and I put the quarters in and I called her collect.
Yo, you taking it
That's
back?
how
You
old
taking it
that's
back,
how
man.
old
Right.
it is. So yeah, man. So yeah, it was but yeah, Jordan's probably the biggest athlete. Mike Tyson was during that time when I was in high
Mhm.
school. But that's what Mike Tyson's the baddest man on the planet.
Right.
Um,
Yo, you got to see those first few seconds of him knocking somebody up. I can only imagine that.
man, listen, it would Mike well, Jordan and Tyson both, man. A lot of times they would have won before the event even started because a lot of times Jordan could tell, like he had you beaten, and you saw in the Last Dance documentary,
Mhm.
he had the game won before the game even started. Same for
Right.
Tyson. Tyson would just come in there, no robe, no socks, just black shorts. It just like he would destroy people, man. And I mean, like
Right.
he's one of the greatest I've ever seen. Football wise, Jerry Rice was during that time, Joe Montana.
Oh
Um,
man.
we saw some great athletes during that time, man. We saw some
Right.
great athletes during that time. So it was high school was it was. I'm with you, Jay. I would go back
Mhm.
if I could, but I'd have to do it the way that we did it. I don't want to do it with TikTok. I don't want to do it with podcasts. I want to just go
Mhm.
back and just do it how we did it because it
Yeah.
was a great 4 years, man. For me, it was a great time and like I said, a self discovery probably more than anything
Mhm.
else.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, man, tell
Yeah.
folks where they can find you. Tell them about the podcast, what they can look forward to hearing and seeing when they check you out.
Oh man, Kyle, thank you again for this opportunity, man. It's definitely been
Mm-hmm.
fun. Most conversations I have are a little bit more formal in the sense of, we talking about relationships or business or something. So it was really good to kind of take this walk
Oh
down
man,
memory lane. But
anytime, man.
yes, man. Such an honor, dog. Definitely gotta stay connected, man, and would
Oh,
love
you know
to,
it.
you know, have another amazing discussion with you, bro. But my name is Jay Immanuel. You guys can support me. Go over to YouTube. Go to Right to Real Love with Jay Immanuel. That's the relationship channel. And then I also have a business podcast called Why We Succeed with Jay Immanuel. You can find that on YouTube as well. But thank you again, Kyle, man. It's truly an honor, bro, man. Yo, this is fun,
Man,
man.
I know,
Yo,
right?
definitely
Man,
fun. I
we
ain't
go
thought about
way
high
back.
school in a minute.
And you know what's interesting, man? You be
What's that?
surprised, like you remember a lot more than you probably think you do,
Mhm,
and it's always good to go back to those memories, man, because sometimes those events and the things that happen kind of help
mhm.
mold and shape us into who we are as adults. We didn't just
Right.
nobody didn't just drop us here. So all the knowledge and stuff that you drop, and you guys please check out his podcast, man. I got a chance to be on there, man, and I was blown away just by
So much
how
fun.
that was dope. And you know what, Jay,
Yeah.
we were on what 2 hours? It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it, man.
It went
It
by so quick, bro.
He was like, all right, man, we about to wrap this thing up. I'm like, what? I was like, and I looked at the time, it's like it was coming up on 2 hours. I was like, wow, we've been on here 2 hours.
Right.
But yeah, man, it's a dope podcast. Everything is just,
Thank you.
it's about us and
Mhm,
relationships and not even just man and woman relationships or whatever like that, but just how we relate. And one of the things that I learned listening
mhm.
and watching on YouTube is that it's thought provoking. It makes you think.
Yes.
Even as I'm listening to people tell their stories, it makes me think about what it is that I'm doing or not doing.
Mhm.
As just
Right.
as a man,
Right.
and then how it relates into my friendships, how it relates into how I do business, how it relates into how I deal with my wife.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of different stuff on there, man. Jay,
Yeah.
Jay, and let me tell y'all something. Jay comes to the podcast. He got the shirt and tie on and everything. He
Yeah.
fly. He got the screens going, and he's got, and he's doing like 20 different things. He's got a live chat going. I'm like, man, I don't know how you do all of this, because my podcast got to
Yeah,
be
I was learning on
pre-recorded.
the fly, brother. Yo, I just started this whole live stream thing like back in November, man. So
Mhm.
I truly have been just learning on the fly, man. And
Hey, man, sometimes that's
after
how it's
every
got to
show, I'll
be.
be like, okay, I gotta get better at this, gotta get better at this.
And their podcast come out what, twice a week?
Yeah, so we do the live show on Tuesdays. So
Mm-hmm.
every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I've seen quite a few of them, man, and it's just
I
like I
appreciate that.
said, I understand, especially being on this side.
Mhm.
I understand what that takes to pull all of that off, and then coordinate that with your guests and everything like that. And like I said, I really enjoyed it, man, and proud of the success, man. Keep doing your thing. Again,
Yo,
this
thank
won't be
you,
your
bro.
last time on here, man.
Yo, we gotta make it happen again,
Oh,
man. Yo,
we
it's
will.
too
We
much
definitely
fun.
will. We definitely will. You guys know where to find me. If you don't, you can check out the 12 Kyle podcast. The podcast drops every Thursday at midnight. Be sure to subscribe. You can find the podcast on any podcast reader, on all of them. Podcast is also featured on YouTube, youtube.com/TWELVEKYLE. Make sure that you subscribe, because from time to time this year we'll be dropping bonus episodes on Sundays as well. That's going to do it for us. We took it back to high school with my man, Jay Immanuel. I'm your boy, 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5 Gs.